What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of The Green Dream right here on Turfs Up Radio. I have a special guest for you guys today, Doug Brown, CEO, founder of Blades of Steel Landscaping. Doug, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How about yourself, Luke?
Good. You have been, I think it's safe to say you were one of the first listeners of my show here. And so it's great that we are actually putting this together and getting you on here as a special guest and, making it full circle now, because I know you were in the top 3 maybe of people that were tuning into the show and, texting me all the time and all that kind of stuff. And I think it's probably pretty safe to say you're probably the number 1 listener. So
probably the number 1.
Yeah.
I was listening to you when you were on Hecubus' show.
That's right. So, I'm willing to bet then. There. I'm willing to bet you were the first listener of the show. So this is not whiskey. This is sweet tea, just so you know.
I've got some peach hot tea for this cold night we're having out here.
What's the temperature?
Last I looked, it was 58.
58. Man, that sounds nice. I think it's a crisp 88 with a humidity of 70% humidity right now. So yeah, it's a little toasty. But hey, look, so, I appreciate you jumping on the show. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about today. We don't really talk trash on this show, but we're going to talk a little trash today and, maybe not mention names specifically, but we're going to get into the do's and don'ts of marketing, what you need to know about hiring an agency and working with a marketing company, and some of the do's and don'ts and hard lessons learned, and share some insight that you've been through. And for full transparency for everybody listening or watching the show, we got started around this time last year, doing a little bit of hiring and recruiting. Maybe it was like October, maybe. We
started in October, the end of October, the beginning of November.
Okay.
And hiring and recruiting.
Yeah, hiring and recruiting.
January,
and then like December, January, we kicked off the website.
We kicked off the website.
Okay.
And I think it was up and running in February.
Yep. So we had that thing turned around, launched in February. We were rolling with that for a little while. You call me mid-March? March. I think it was March.
I think it was mid-March, yeah.
Yeah, somewhere in there. You call me, you said
April. It was April or May.
Okay. April or May. April or May. You give me a ring. You go, "Hey, Luke, I wanna have a conversation." I think you said something like, "Don't kill me" or something like that, but I'm thinking about moving. I'm thinking about moving and hiring a different marketing agency. And I said, "Do you remember what I told you?"
I don't remember what you told me.
What I told you. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is my understanding of that conversation. I told you, Doug, whatever your success looks like is success for us, and if it's with us or without us, it's whatever. We don't care where you go. We want you to be successful, and if you see that with somebody else, then we'll support you all the way.
You did tell me.
Yeah.
You did. And I told you if it didn't work, I'd be back.
Yep. And here we are. Little sneak peek into how this show is going to go. So you call me and you go, "Hey, this is the situation." Walk me through what was going through your mind there. So you come across these other guys. I'm going to let you tell the story of how you came across these guys, what was appealing, why you started having a conversation with them, and kind of walk us down the road of that.
So I came across this other marketing guy, sold himself as a solo marketer working with a bunch of big name companies in our area, from tree service to landscape to other mowing crews, companies doing over $1 million. And I was like, he's got them there. I got to give it a shot. Like, what do I got to lose? Well, a lot.
Well, so
waste of time.
So walk people through some of those conversations. So he was telling you, look, we're local. I remember you telling me, because we were having the conversations about, where we were going to go for the season and all that kind of stuff. And I said, Doug, look, we can obviously do all the same things that they're wanting to do. And I remember specifically you told me, yes, I know that, but these guys know my areas. Like he was telling me about the he already knew about the zip codes that were good and all this kind of stuff. So walk me through how he ended up getting in front of you in those situations.
I don't really know. I think it was just a good sales pitch. At the end of it, he knew kind of what I was looking for. And I think he knew what tactics to hit, that I was hurting a little bit and a little unsure of what was going on. And he knew what cards to play.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's a local guy, so I still think he does know the zip codes, but his marketing's not quality.
So walk me through some of the a little bit of the bait and switch that happened, because to me from what you've told me, there sounds like there's been a little bit of a bait and switch, because it was my understanding, the way you were telling me, that this was his agency, this was his thing, he knew the stuff, he knew all the stuff, whatever, and then come to find out after the fact, this is a national, maybe, I don't think they're publicly traded, but it's a big time agency that serves the whole US, every industry under the sun. And it was kind of like here's the sale, here's sign the documents, we're here until you kind of close the deal, and then boom, now you're handed off, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you get a call from somebody and you're like, dude, who are you?
Right.
Walk us through that.
So that looked like it was Zoom calls, him taking his Saturdays, his Sundays, personally helping me with this. Walking me through a little bit of Facebook stuff, some Google Maps stuff, to the point that and he couldn't say that he could do something as good. They were going to try to get as close as they could, but knew I already had something better.
So talk to me about, and on my end, you cut out a little bit. So I lost a little bit of that, but I think I caught up with where you were going with that. But talk to me a little bit about, you get a call from these guys. You're like, yo, what's going on with this? And there's now a handoff. And did you talk to this guy after the fact? Like, was there a regular checkup that this guy was giving you after he sold you kind of on the services? Did he ever call you and say, hey, here's the game plan, here's what we're doing?
He would text me here and there, and I'd be like, this isn't working, we need to jump on a Zoom and figure some stuff out. He had COVID, his kids were sick, his wife was sick, the dog had to go to the vet. There was excuses every time we were going to set something up that he couldn't make it. And then towards the end, trying to get a hold of him was just non-existent. And then trying to get someone from the parent company to call me back was a joke.
So let's talk about the contract, right? So we'll get to the exit and some of the shenanigans that happened with that. But let's talk about the contract and all that stuff. Did he tell you, you knew, right? I'm pretty sure you knew that it was a 6-month contract?
6-month contract.
Yep.
That was about all I knew.
Okay. And what was it? Was it sent over in DocuSign or something like that? Or
yes.
Do you remember how many pages?
Like a 3-page contract in DocuSign.
And it walked through pricing. It was pretty transparent. You knew how much you were paying them. You knew all of the different things.
Yes.
Okay. Did it tell you how they were going to bill you? Like no. walk through their billing cycle. Like how did what's your understanding of of what they were going to get paid?
It was free to build the website. The $2,200 only covered website maintenance and marketing, Google and Facebook. Didn't really get into what they would be doing or what type of ads they would be posting. In fact, I never really even seen proof or like a start of an ad or, what type of ad. And when I say proof, I mean like proof in the ad to see what we were running, to make sure, it was approved by me.
So there was no approval process. It was pretty much just post and run. And you did you ever see any of your advertisements? Did you ever do any searches on Google to try to find the ad itself or any of that kind of stuff to try to see if you could see yourself popping up?
It just wasn't going to work. So why keep wasting time?
And there was a little bit of a debacle with Facebook, right?
There was a big debacle with Facebook.
What ended up being the Facebook debacle? Walk us through this, because this is.
So when let me rephrase that. A couple years ago, I did another marketing company by GoDaddy called GoDaddy Social. GoDaddy must have realized it was an epic fail because they decommissioned it in January of 2023.
Funny because we do a lot of stuff.
Left my face.
We obviously buy a lot of URLs and stuff like that sometimes on GoDaddy. GoDaddy's usually like our go-to for purchasing URLs and stuff like that. I had no idea that they had a social division, which is wild.
Yeah. It's amazing what you can find about other companies when you do a little digging.
Yeah. Yeah. So they start your Facebook page. They're running all that stuff. They end up closing the account down or the division down.
Well, I actually abandoned ship because they were about worse than the company that we're talking about. Oof. I don't know if we want to talk names on here yet.
No, we'll leave that to the actual talking trash. We'll leave that to actual talking trash with the one and only Darren Gruner himself. We'll keep this pretty clean here on this show, but I'll let you tear it up with him on talking trash. So you want to know exactly who you worked with, who you just jumped ship from. Tune into a future episode of Talking Trash with Darren Gruner. Every once in a while on, what is it, Tuesday nights? I think it's Tuesday.
Tuesday nights at 7 o'clock.
Yeah, Tuesday nights at 7 o'clock Eastern time here on Turf Sub Radio. You can hear some talking trash about trash. Sometimes you got to take that garbage out.
Yeah, this will rank right up there with Darren's mistake of marketing.
Darren's mistake of marketing.
Magazine.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, the magazine.
Yeah. It was a similar approach. Sometimes I don't know if I've talked about this on the show or not, but when I got out of the lawn and landscape industry and I got into the marketing side, it was interesting for me because the whole reason that I got into a lot of the marketing side of things was I had a lot of local businesses start asking me questions. How did you grow so fast? We need some help, blah, blah, blah. So we kind of, end up in this arena of coaching and marketing and stuff like that for a lot of local businesses and whatnot. And it was interesting because the more that I got outside of that original circle that knew me and had seen me grow the lawn and landscape company, Luke's Landscape and Maintenance, it was interesting because I was met with a lot more hate. And it was almost like, when you get that phone call from a friend or somebody in multi-level marketing and you're just like, oh, dude, like you get that call and you're just like, oh, dude, like I already know what you're going to sell. Like, I don't want to answer your calls anymore. Like people that I had an acquaintance with, Once they found out that I was in marketing, they were like, dude, get away from me. Like, you're going to, you know what I mean? It was like that multi-level marketing feel. And I, now being in this industry since 2019, I understand it more because of these yahoos, unfortunately, in our industry that pull this kind of stuff. Like, whether it is print advertising, digital marketing, you name it, it's kind of the whole marketing industry as a whole. There's a lot of bait and switch, and there's a lot of I got yous. There's a lot of I hold your stuff. I mean, because think about it, like, if you weren't coming back to us, who we were lucky enough that we still had your files for the website, so that when you decided to jump, we could literally push go on the website, and your old website that you had originally paid us to build could be just live again and like 3 hours turnaround. Like, that is typically not how that works in a transition like that. You know,
I count my lucky stars.
Yeah. And so we would have been in a rebuild situation, and here we go again. But if we would not have been in that situation and we wanted to take over that website, we wouldn't have been able to, because it's built on a proprietary system. That is ultimately why, because you remember, we try to run things very different here. And you remember, if correct me if I'm wrong, any of this stuff, like if I'm wrong with this, call me out on it. But when you said, hey, this is the direction I'm going to go, I said, you know what? Like, and I told you, you can go wherever you want. We're always going to be friends. There's no hard feelings. Like, whatever you want to do, your success is my success. And if your success is somewhere else, then that's what it is. Obviously, I would have loved for you to stay with us, but you know, it just is what it is. So I told you, have this guy call me. I'm going to give him access to anything and everything he needs to move this site, to transition it. There was no, I've got the keys to the kingdom. There was no craziness. Like, I tried to say, whatever you need from me, I'm going to make it easy for you to transition. Take it. And ultimately, that's why you ended up with the site that you did, because they didn't actually build websites on WordPress. They built it on their own proprietary system. And what that means is that when you were to leave, if you were to wanting to keep that website, you ultimately could not have without staying with them, because it's a proprietary website builder system that they use. That's not just the normal GoDaddy URL put onto a WordPress platform, and then a website that can be transferred around to different hosting servers. So that's the problem in our industry, is that there's a lot of that bait and switch situation. Well, and for those of you listening, these are the questions you need to ask. Use this experience that Doug's kind of gone through, and make sure that you are asking your marketing agencies, what's the contingency? Like, okay, if you're going to put me in a 6-month contract, what happens if this is a completely utter fail and we don't get any phone calls? And now we have 6 months of like, and ultimately, right, like, we kind of laid it out for them and said, here's why we need to get out of the contract. And ultimately, you were able to get out 2 months early.
Yeah, we had to, and that was a fight.
I was surprised when you forwarded me the email that said, we've closed your account, you're good to go, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I was like, dude, you're going to ride this to the end.
They still came after me for one more month of their website marketing, but no ad spend.
Okay.
So it cost me $286, I think, to get out of it.
All things considered, that's not bad.
No,
now here's.
I just paid them and said, move on.
All right, so we are talking about what to know when hiring a marketing agency, real life experiences with Doug Brown.
Real life.
And this is the stuff that you got to think about. Like, not all agencies are bad agencies. There are a lot of agencies that are good. I know several of them in the green industry that are good agencies that do good work. They're not here to scam you or any of that kind of stuff. It's just important to make sure that you ask the right questions when you're going into contracts, especially. I personally hate contracts in this business because I think that you should be good enough to prove yourself month over month, and you shouldn't have to have a 6 month or 1 year contract to hold you into that agreement. And again, it puts you in this awkward situation, kind of like you found yourself in, where when you are like, yo, this isn't working, I just want to leave, it gets kind of ugly, and it just makes a bad situation worse.
I agree.
Yeah, because then you're just like, well, here we are. Now I don't like you, but now I have 2 more months of dealing with this because we're kind of stuck
at the
here.
time it was 3.
Or 3 more months because we're stuck here. So, it's one of those situations where it's hard. And so
and it was a one-way contract. I had to pay them whether they did their job or not. And I believe in the contract they could terminate me at any time.
Yeah, make sense. That kind of stuff always blows my mind when people put that kind of stuff in their agreements. Talk to me. So, well, I want to say this one thing. We're transitioning a site right now. We're literally in the works. We were trying to move it last week, and the agency we're moving it from has been playing these bait and switch games, and it's on a WordPress platform and all that kind of stuff. And look, if you're listening to the show right now, when you are thinking about an agency and you're going to be moving in that direction, you're looking to go that route, you need to ask the questions of who has control of my stuff, who's going to be spending the marketing dollars. Am I paying you or am I paying Facebook directly? And what happens when I want to leave? Those are the 3 big questions that you should be asking mainly. And the big thing is that, these guys, same situation, they didn't realize that they thought they had access to their account, but they were only an editor. So they had very limited access to their website. They didn't have the ability to move it or any of that kind of stuff without going through the lady. And so we end up telling this lady who's running their marketing, yo, look, we're making a switch. We're moving the account. You're basically fired. And she comes back and goes, oh, well, I just said, I told the client, here's all the things you need to ask for. We need to have admin access to the website. We need to have XYZ. And she comes back and she's like, oh, well, for security reasons, we don't give administrative access to the websites. I mean, that's 100% bullshit. There's nothing you're going to get access to somebody's server by having administrative access to their website. That is an individual website thing in and of itself. So if you get an agency that tells you, oh, you're not allowed to have access, they're hiding stuff from you. And this kind of leads into the second point that we ended up finding you were in, Doug, is that they were spending your marketing dollars. You were paying them a lump sum every month. And then they were in charge of spending that money with Facebook, Google, whoever they were spending that money with. And what ends up, and what you kind of alluded to at the beginning of the show, is that what happens is that it becomes hard to actually track down if that money was spent or not.
I have no proof of where they spent that money.
Or if it was even spent.
Yes.
And then what ends up coming out later, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, but ends up coming out later that they are taking a cut of that ad spend as a management fee that you really didn't know was happening until after the fact.
Yeah, I would say that they were.
Maybe it was in the contract, but it wasn't openly disclosed to you. You thought that your fee was going to be you thought your fee was going to be $200 and something a month and $1,000 ish a month in ad spend.
Yes.
Come to find out, they're taking a cut of the $1,000 a month in ad spend on top of your $200 and something a month.
Yes.
And then spending who knows what on the ad platforms.
Yes. And then because we had a problem with Facebook, they never spent a penny on Facebook because they could never get it connected. But they were one of the selling points that they had a phenomenal Facebook team that would figure all the problems out.
Yeah.
And after weeks of dealing with their Facebook team, their recommendation was delete it and start a new one.
Oh, geez. Yep. So what would be your advice to somebody that is thinking about hiring an agency? What would be, now knowing what you know now, what would be your advice to somebody that is thinking about going down that road? What would you tell your former self sitting down and thinking about, all right, what should I do with my marketing? What would you tell yourself?
I would probably start with finding an agency that's willing to work with what you have. Because there's an agency that we both know that is very decent, that thought the logos and everything I had were a joke. So I would say that would be my starting point, is find someone that's going to take you for you.
Okay. What would you tell yourself sitting down now, knowing what you know about how to interview an agency? What would you tell yourself as far as like, you know, how do I pick between one or the other? Okay, take the agency that's going to work with what you have, not necessarily tell you that you have to blow everything up and start over or whatever. Okay. Anything else along the lines of like, you know, how to evaluate who might be the better fit?
I'm not really sure how I would do that, because you are the best fit. You make it easy.
Well, we try our best. I wasn't trying to bait and switch you into this, but you know, I appreciate it. You know, one thing I will say, so what, we've been working together again now for about going on 3 weeks. In 3 weeks,
communication has been over the top the last 3 weeks.
In the last 3 weeks, we've seen some tremendous growth already on the SEO side of things. I believe you've
Overnight,
said
we've seen a big jump.
Yeah. We've seen about 627 positive position changes just since switching over 3 weeks ago. And so, you know, a big part of that just goes back to the website being properly set up, having all the analytics and Google Search Console and everything already set up. So as soon as that website went live again, we were able to say, yo, index the site and pretty much get back up on Google. And we kind of picked up exactly where we left off, which was really a nice thing where we didn't have to then go try to rebuild everything that, you know, we've already worked so hard on and you've spent some money on to get back to this place. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you've already seen some phone calls and some deals come from the last 3 weeks worth of work.
Yes.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yes, we got a decent sized tree job. Customer looking for a little dirt work. And a weekly mowing.
Nice. So, you know,
without spending any money.
Yeah, exactly. That's just getting the website back up and live and all that kind of stuff. And we haven't even turned ads on. We've just put back up what we had with, and you know, the other big thing too, that I think was a big difference between, we got a big difference between your site and the site that they built for you was one of the big things that we were able to accomplish was getting all of your own content into your site, your pictures, your family, all of that kind of stuff we were able to incorporate because one, you provided us with a awesome Google Drive folder of all these different pictures of projects and you guys working and all that kind of stuff. One of the things that I noticed about the site that was put up for you is that there was a lot of stock images. And stock only gets you so far.
You broke up. You got out there to say that.
So one of the big things that I think was a difference in your site versus the site that you have now with us versus the site that you had, that they built you, was that we were able to incorporate a lot of your actual photos from the Google Drive that you guys provided us with, a bunch of images, before and afters, working projects, all of that kind of stuff. You guys had the ability to put that together for us, which was a huge help. And, one of the things that I know when I was looking through the website that they had built was that there was a lot of stock images and stuff that just maybe necessarily wasn't a part of even your region of the country, that there were pictures that were not from the East Coast that just kind of looked a little bit off.
Yes.
And I think that makes a big difference.
Photos were provided to them, and they chose to do nothing with them.
Yeah. And I think people realize that stuff is stock. I think ultimately at the end of the day, having an image versus not having an image is important. And if you have to use stock, okay, use stock. But when we had already built an entire site with no stock images at all, I think, and 100% of your website photos. If they weren't 100% not stock, it was 95% or 99% of your images, and you had to really dig on some sub pages to find a stock image, where it was probably the other way around. It was 95% stock and maybe a few pictures of your stuff here and there.
I had 3 pictures of our stuff on there. The other 27 were stock.
And do you remember what we ended up finding with some of those stock photos when I started doing reverse lookups? Do you remember what we ended up finding with a few of the images? Tell people what we ended up finding.
Well, the side picture was artificial turf. The before and after side pictures. And then pictures from another landscaping company. I won't disclose their name. Up in New Hampshire.
So I think you called me one day, and I don't remember. I think it was maybe you were starting the conversations of, hey, what would it look like to switch back? And we were talking about the stock images and stuff. And I said, I wonder how many people are using this image and stuff like that. And I ended up reverse searching one of the images. Come to find out, you were the only one using the image. That was not that it was listed on somebody else's website with a whole page of before and after pictures. And these guys, this had nothing to do with you. Unfortunately, what sucks about this situation is that in a copyright situation, that stuff probably would have come back to you.
Probably.
And the agency would have been like, oh, we don't know what's going on. But yet they were the ones that went out there and snatched this photo from somebody else's website and used it on yours. And end of the day, they probably wouldn't have been, held responsible for that situation. Hard to know. And that's probably why they let you out of your contract so early. When you put that stuff in that email to them, they were probably like, oh, shoot. We know that we've done wrong here, and it's probably best to just let this guy out of this contract for 2 or 3 more months than to try and fight this, because we had a pretty good case going.
Oh, I think they were on a losing battle.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, that's one of those things that if you're listening to this show and you're thinking about, going down the lines of having somebody build a website for you and stuff like that, it's important to know where those images come from. And it's important to ask the questions of, okay, when you're using stock images and stuff like that, are you buying the license? Who owns the license? All of that kind of stuff. What's going to happen if something were to happen down the line and we were to be responsible for maybe a website picture that you chose, the copyright or whatever is hard to trace back or something, who's liable for that image being put on the site? And, those are the questions you need to ask, because ultimately at the end of the day, it can happen. We've seen it happen once, only one time, where we acquired a website. This is one of the things that we try, we try to now kind of get away from a little bit is we typically want to rebuild a client's website when we bring on a new client. Now, we haven't always been that way. A lot of times now we will rebuild them, and it's because of the fact that we need to make sure that we have all of our I's dotted and T's crossed. And it's because we had a situation once where we acquired a website from somebody, and the previous web builder had a situation like this where a image wasn't copyrighted or something like that. And we end up getting a phone call from this company that checks on image copyrights. And we get the client gets a phone call, and they're like, yo, you have this image on your site that you don't have the copyright certificate for. And now you're liable for, I think it was like $1,200. And it was like this situation where it was going around, and we ended up helping them negotiate a settlement on the deal. And after that situation, we said, you know what, we really need to rebuild sites when we acquire them now, because it's going to be a situation where it's going to be hard, because they really had no ramifications now for this old agency after they had already left. They're like, they just stopped answering their phone calls. There was nothing they could do. They ended up having to pay some of that money. And so we said, you know what, let's make sure that we get this stuff taken care of and get some of that stuff rebuilt. But that's one of those things that it's important to ask those questions about. Okay, if you're going to use stock images, what's going to happen with those licensing agreements to be able to use that image on my site, and what happens when we leave? All important things to ask. Doug, as far as this stuff goes, yeah, what you were going to ask a question. Go ahead.
Well,
or say something.
That was another thing. It was sold to me that the website would be built on stock photos, and a few weeks later they would start rotating a few pictures out a day for our own photos. And 2.5 months later, multiple requests later, still stock photos.
Yeah, so there's just a lack of follow through.
Yes.
Pretty much. Yeah. Okay. So anything along the lines of this stuff that we haven't covered that you would want somebody that is going to be like your previous self, if your previous self was listening to the show, is there anything else along the lines of this that you would want them to know that we haven't touched on?
I don't think so.
Cool. All right. So the next part that I want to transition to here is just really learning about you. I want people to be able to learn about Blades of Steel, where you guys are at, how did you get into this business? I think you kind of grown up on a farm, right? And so that was kind of some of the background. Talk to me about how you have gotten to this place that you're at right now. And then let's move into where's the future going? Where's Blades of Steel going next year, the following years, all that kind of stuff. But bring us back to the beginning. How did you get started into the green industry?
So probably like many of you out there, I got started in the green industry. I was 14, 15 years old, racing RC cars from this cool company called Traxxas out of McKinney, Texas.
What? McKinney?
Yeah.
You're joking.
This is where Traxxas.
You're kidding me.
You've never heard of them.
Dude, yeah. I don't know if I've heard of them or not, but I'm literally sitting right here in McKinney, Texas right now. Like that's the craziest thing I've heard, and that's the craziest thing I've heard in my life.
Yeah. And Dad told me he wouldn't fund them, but the lawnmower was in the shed, and he'd help me get a few little lawns up and down and around the block. And that would fund my crazy hobby.
And so what, tell me about these. Are these like street racers? Are these like off-road
dirt racers?
Okay. And so what, these are hitting, these were the speed demons that were like 80 mile an hour, or what tell me, walk me through this. I'm not super familiar with this hobby.
So we were into dirt track racing jumps, tabletops, good air, kind of heavy competition. 2-wheel drive stadium truck, two-wheel drive buggy.
What did these run off of? Jet fuel?
So in the day, they ran off nitro.
Okay.
Like your midgets.
Okay.
Now most of them are lithium battery.
Oh, okay.
Which are now doing 60, 70 mile an hour. When I first got into it, 30, 40 mile an hour was tops. That was technology.
Okay.
With old Nikon batteries.
That's still super fast. I don't know how you would be able to like even keep up. I feel like it would be wrecked before I could even like be like, oh, there's a turn.
It's a good thing the match show is coming up in December. We'll charge a couple up. I got them in the basement.
All right, there we go. That'll be fun.
We'll have a good time.
That would be a fun time. I'll make sure that you remember that.
Yeah.
I just
yeah, that's how I get into it.
I just don't know if I want to be held liable for any wrecks. I might just watch.
We can find parts if I don't have it on hand.
All right,
so from there, it kind of grew into mowing more and more. Started off at 5 or 10 lawns. I turned 18, got a pickup truck, Ford Ranger. And it was up to 25, 30. And I think at one point I was mowing like 50, 60 after work as a spare cash income job. And I was working for our local municipality. I climbed the ranks there. I was 24 years old. Couldn't go any higher. They pissed me off one day and I quit.
Oh, dang.
I was going full-time in the green industry.
Okay, let's go. What were you doing for the municipality? Same kind of stuff or
full-time mechanic?
Oh, wow. Okay. So it was like heavy equipment.
Wrenches. Yeah.
Nice.
So my background is a trade school, was a certified welder maintenance mechanic.
What was your most hated machine that you would work on?
Street sweeper.
Oh. The big ones, I'm guessing.
Yeah, the big ones have the two big front tires and the little trike tire in the back.
Yeah.
I'll probably catch slack for this, but I swear they were built in China with little Chinese kids that could get their arm anywhere in that thing. Jeez. Hydraulic hoses rode it through places I never knew how they got them in there.
Jeez Louise. What was
always dirty.
What was your most hated piece of equipment? Well, so I'm talking like tractor wise or any of that kind of stuff. Was there anything that would come in from a tractor perspective that you were like, oh, these are the worst to work on?
So there was nothing that was worse to work on. Nobody cared for the equipment.
Okay. Operator error.
So they would just run a brick over with a X mark zero turn, rip spindles out, bring it back to the shop on a 100-degree day, drop it off, and take another one out.
Jeez Louise. Do the same thing
next day. And then do the same thing.
Man. Was there a piece of equipment that you loved to work on that you were like, oh, if I could only work on these, I would be happy?
Probably the pickup trucks.
Okay.
The pickup trucks didn't seem to get abused too much.
What was the model that they were running? Were they running the same type of truck, or were they kind of buying whatever they could get a deal on?
They were early 2000s to like 07 Fords.
Okay.
And we're talking, this would have been 2011 to 14 time frame.
Okay. You know, I don't know about now, but you know, Ford used to be the fleet truck of all fleet trucks. Like you would see Fords everywhere in a fleet division.
I think they're going back to it.
Yeah.
Dodge had it for a while, but they're having some issues.
Yeah. All right. So you ride the ranks to the top. One day somebody says something. Dang. Yeah. So you ride the ranks to the top in 4 years. One day somebody says something. You go, no, I'm done. See you later. You go into the green industry full time. What does that look like? Is that just you? Did you bring on some help then? What was the next steps?
So that was me and one part-time employee. And that was the beginning of our snow industry.
Okay. And so what time of the year was this? Was this like spring, fall, summer, winter?
Late summer, early fall, probably right around
this time of the year. Okay, cool. And so you're mowing 60 yards a week, right? Is that what you said?
Yes. Yeah, I was about somewhere 50, 60, I would say at that time.
Part-time guy coming in, helping you when you need it. You're starting to look at snow contracts. You're trying to get into the snow side of the business. What happens next? Do you just start sending stuff out to your current clients saying, "Hey, I'm in this full time. Bring me some more work." How did you grow from there?
You're making me think now. I would say that I didn't really grow too much from there. I just transitioned from doing 15 lawns a week or 15 lawns a day at night to during the day. And that became the full-time job.
And so what happened that next season to help you grow? Did you stay in lawn care? Did you transition at all? What was
it was all just lawn care and maintenance and word of mouth, no advertising.
And then eventually you start moving into hardscaping and that kind of stuff, right?
So that was a little bit later down the road. It was a couple years.
Okay.
I got into excavation with a friend of mine and decided that rate work looked really good and sold 40% of my weekly maintenance off to go do rate work. So I could go back to go doing lawns at night.
Okay.
And then realized that was 10 to 12-hour days, so I got rid of more. And dwindled down to, I don't know, I think I was down to 15 lawns.
15 lawns a week?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I could go out and do that on a Friday or Saturday.
Yep.
And these are like 1 acre to 2 acre lawns, not
cookie cutters.
Postage stamp lawns.
Yeah.
No, they're not cookie cutters.
Yep.
These are 2 to 3 hour stops by yourself.
Man. That's a lot.
Yeah, so I did that for a while, and then I bought another company out.
Okay.
I got tired of the rate work, jump shipped out of that, and here I am back in the green industry.
So you said you purchased a company?
Yes.
So talk to me about that. How did you come across these guys? What started the conversation? Walk somebody through if they were thinking about acquiring another company. What would that look like?
Don't do it. My recommendation: don't do it. Take whatever money you're going to spend on acquiring a company and throw it twofolds into marketing. That would be my recommendation. I have some really good customers now, but that monthly note hurts every week, every month.
So this is an interesting point because on TikTok, I made a video that was basically talking about going. The title was 0 to 100 yards a week, and I pretty much talked about guerrilla marketing tactics. And if I was thrown back into having to mow lawns again, what would be the top first things that I would do, looking back, to go grow the business? And this was with the perception that I had no money or very little money, to not go gun ho, dump money into marketing like super heavy and all that kind of stuff. And because if that was the case, if I had money stashed where I could dump money, obviously I know where I would spend it in those what platforms and that kind of stuff. But this is going back to I was basically talking to my previous self and saying like, okay, as that kid in high school, like if I had to go from 0 to 100 yards a week again, what would I tell that kid? What took me 4 years to learn, what would I tell him in one video? It was the premise of that video. So I end up getting a guy that stitched my video, and he goes, oh, this kid that, referring to me in the video, he's like, oh, this kid must have read a marketing book and, blah, blah, blah. This all sounds cute. But if it were me, I would just go buy a route. And I haven't made a response to that video yet because I'm going to. I just haven't had time. But it's to your point here is that unless I know there's a guy that I think you might have listened to the show, Marvin Salcido with Salcido Lawns. He's built a lot of his company off of purchasing lawn routes. But in that,
I think it's all about location.
It is, but it's also about the expertise of knowing what to look for when you're purchasing a lawn route. And in that interview, he talks about having major losses, like where he spent $250,000 to purchase a lawn route. And within 6 months, he pretty much closed down that whole part of the business because it was an utter failure. And that's the problem that I see people run into, is that it sounds really good and talk to this point of it may sound really good to be able to go, oh, well, if I purchase this lawn route, I am looking at X amount of dollars a month in revenue that instantaneously produces. But what I think people miss, if you've never gone down that road of purchasing a lawn route before, and you're not in a seasoned business acquisition person, you don't know the right things to look for. And my question would be, do you know off the top of your head just a ballpark of like what the churn was when you purchased that route? Like, was there a percentage of those customers that dropped off because you had to raise your prices? They were too low. As soon as you transitioned, they didn't like you now because it wasn't the previous owner. Did you run into any of that?
We retained 90% for the first year. Year 2, we were probably 85%.
And was that because you raised your prices? Did you raise your prices when you moved in? Did you find that the pricing was pretty close?
The pricing I thought was pretty close, except for a few. There was a few that just weren't fits for us.
Because of location or clientele? Oh, okay.
Well, clientele. Like, we don't mow Thursday, Fridays. We are a Wayne Voles company. We mow Monday through Wednesday. And we had one that her lawn had to be cut on Friday. And we wouldn't do it. Wednesdays was as close as I could get her. And that was not good enough.
Yep. Been there before.
So that was some of it. We retained a lot. We still have a lot of them customers. We lost one big one. I don't think it was anything we did. I don't think it was anything they did. They had a change of council. And when the board changed, somebody else came in with the board.
So this was an HOA?
Cemetery.
Oh, okay.
So, which paid decent.
Yeah.
I'll never do one again.
It's a lot of weed eating.
It's a lot of weed eating.
That's
there's no extras.
If I was that guy, I would hate my life.
I hated my life one day a week.
Oh man. Okay, so how did you come across this guy? So what if somebody were interested in this?
Facebook Marketplace.
Really? So somebody was on Facebook Marketplace saying, "Yo, I'm here to sell my business. Here's what I'm selling."
I'm looking to retire.
Okay.
I'm 55 years old. Equipment, trailer, package deal.
What was
a friend of mine found it and sent it to me.
Was it paid on a multiple? Was it a multiple of the account? So he said like, okay, these how many properties was it?
20 or 25.
So this 25 properties pays X amount of dollars a year. And so he times that by a number. Was there a multiple, or it was just a 1 year deal? What was it? How did that work?
It was basically lock, stock, and barrel for 40 grand.
Okay.
Pickup truck, which was beat the crap, older F-150, single axle trailer, 52-inch right, some hand tools, a weed eater, hand blower. It was more the accounts I was buying than the equipment.
Yep.
The right's still in our fleet, though.
Okay. And so what did that 20 accounts produce a year, guesstimating? 80,000, 100,000, 120,000?
I think it was like 120 somewhere. 100 to 120.
So for 40 grand, you buy the whole thing, produces 120 year one. What was it, a year payout? Was it all one lump sum? How'd you end up?
Lump sum.
Okay. So I
think year one it came with snow work. We did 20,000 in snow work off of that.
Okay. So you buy this for 40 grand. You get 160, 170,000 a year out of that 40 grand. And then next year you drop some customers. You probably start picking up some customers off of referrals, any of that kind of stuff. What ends up happening from there?
So it took 2 years before I got any referrals. And then the first year we dropped a couple dropped us. We're in year 4. And I don't think anyone's going anywhere. The remaining are where they're hero.
Nice. And so from there you've just been picking and choosing where you want to go with the lawn care side of things, and you've kind of shifted a little bit more into heavier landscaping, heavier tree work, more project base than lawn care.
Yes. And there's another shift that we'll have to talk about off air.
And so what's the future? So here you are in year 4. What's the future of the company? Where do you want to go? What's next year's goal?
Next year's goal is 750 to $1 million.
Okay.
Revenue.
Yep.
Year 2, 1 to 2 million. Year 3, 5 million.
And that's lawn care, landscaping.
Lawn care, landscape, fir, tree, snow removal.
Do you have
going to get us there?
Okay, so there's not necessarily a breakdown of here's how much we want to do in lawn care, here's how much we want to do in hardscape, tree care.
No.
Is there a part of the industry that you like the most between the different things?
Used to be the lawn care of it. I am heavily shifting into tree care.
Okay.
And snow. Snow is my drug of choice.
Okay. That's interesting because a lot of people hate snow. A lot of people want to be out of that call at 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. to go plow stuff.
If you want to picture Doug before a snow event, think of your 6-year-old kid on Christmas morning.
It's like, let's go. Big money.
Yeah.
Make it rain, baby. Some snow.
White gold falling from the sky.
That's what I was going to say. White gold. I have some roofing. I have roofing buddies here, and they call hail sky diamonds. Sky diamonds. Yeah, pennies from heaven. Oh, man. Yeah, that's good.
When we're down to the final 8 hours before a storm, the wife doesn't even want to see me. She's like, get out. I can't even deal with you.
One day I want to come up and help you with some snow stuff because I've never professionally plowed snow before. I want to do it. I think it would be a lot of fun. I want to go run a loader all night and just push snow around a parking lot.
Well, let's go.
Okay. Getting me in, I feel like would be the hardest part. because it's kind of like, snowstorms, I feel like, are so much kind of hit and miss. But getting me in and then figuring out how to get out would be the issue. But we'll figure it. We can figure it out.
We got a spare bedroom.
Yeah.
Put you up for a couple of days. We'll feed you.
I'm gonna bring all the camera gear, and we're gonna get some cool shots.
Yeah. I got some different cool sites.
Yeah, that would be pretty sweet.
From big acre warehouses to HOA on the side of a mountain.
Nice.
Winding the switchbacks with a loader.
Oh, jeez. All right, Doug. Well, we're pretty much here to the end of the show. Anything that we haven't covered that you want to cover that we haven't? Any last parting words of wisdom?
If you find a good marketer, don't leave for the better deal because it's probably not a better deal. And we're gonna have to do a part 2.
And we're gonna have to do a part 2 and talking trash. I'm gonna tell Darren I want to be on that show when you guys put that together. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thank you for tuning in to another show of The Green Dream right here on Turf Sub Radio, coming to you live every Tuesday at 2:00 Central Time, 3:00 Eastern Time, right here on Turf Sub Radio. Doug, thank you for being a part of the show. Thanks for being our special guest. Thanks for being our number one listener. And we need to send you something in the mail that says, I was the original, the OG tuning into The Green Dream when nobody knew who we were. So we appreciate you. Thanks for finally making it happen and getting on the show. I know you're a busy guy. We've been trying to put this together for several months, and here we are. We're finally making it happen. We'll have part 2 sometime here in the short future, and who knows. If I make it past the reigning champion, whenever that's going to be, maybe we'll end up finding ourselves head to head on Darren's little trivia games. So let's go. We'll see what happens there.
I just want to say, anyone that reached out to me, talk to me. 484-706-9533.
How can
text me?
Yeah, besides calling and texting, what's other places that people can reach out?
You can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Doug at bladesofsteellandscaping.com.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in to another show. We've got so much more for you in the future. So until next time, you know what to do. Keep cutting grass, keep planting plants. We will catch you on the flip side.